CJ. Yeah, what we talking about? 94 feet, crossover bodies, dropping J's up. Players this elite, your shots on body blocking halftime. We break it down, we gon' call your bluff, it's past time. You recognize, press. We got the heat down in Florida with the keys. Guess we the best, magic, we flash with them fans, listen, won't see the best. Show rise from the airwaves like all stars in them stairways. Local rockin', we not stopping, got hot topics like every day. Them trades hit that deadline, my team chasing the big range, we ball, check that headline. Don't mess it up when you pick teams, the only station giving y'all that info with that real talk. Don't be trying to contest it, go toe to toe and get wheeled off. We shooting from deeper than that report from the bleachers. If you ain't on your game, then we got something to teach you. Tie your laces up, might get shook up out of them sneakers. That triple threat, bless your eardrum straight out of your speakers. Go from that black top to the hardwood, locker room to that press day. Got the scoop on them contracts, new prospects and best plays. NBA defined by the grind, in between the lines, full court pressing, finessing, reading signs. What we talking about? 94 feet crossover.
What's up, everybody? This is Dan Thompson for AroundTheAssociation.com, and this is the Around the Association podcast. This is a two-part podcast. The first part will be up sometime on Wednesday, with the second part being up on Thursday. And the two-part podcast, to me, is saying my way of saying thank you. The NBA will lose two of my favorites growing up as I've gotten older for basketball and everything between, in Miami's Dwyane Wade and Dallas's Dirk Nowitzki, over the next two nights. As the NBA season comes to a close on Wednesday night, Dwyane and Dirk will be playing their final games, in the NBA. Before we get into Thursday or sometime Thursday afternoon or Thursday morning, we're going to be without two of our, of the last great ones that we've had, at least in my generation. See, I'm 35 years old. So, when I say my part of it, it's when Dwyane Wade came in the league, and when Dwyane Wade came in the league, he came in a draft class that considerably be one of the most top heavy and greatest draft classes that we could ever see. He came in the class with LeBron James. He came into the class with Chris Bosh, Carmelo Anthony. And that draft class he was in, he came in with the reputation after having that Final Four run, with Marquette. And he was this guy that we hadn't seen in a while. And when I say hadn't seen in a while, it's like when you're going in that phase in the 2000s, in the 2003, 2004 part, we're in a phase where it's Kobe and it's Tracy McGrady, and Dwyane is a guy who is just 6'4", 220 pounds, and he's a good sized guy. He was a guy who got to the basket, got to the rim, super athletic. But some of the things Dwyane did on the floor was just amazing. I mean, for his size, he was such a great shot blocker. He got his teammates involved. He knew how to pass the ball. And if you wanted a bucket, he can get you a bucket at any point in time. So if you really go back to all the years of Dwyane, I mean, even the first few years, when he came in the league, he was just that impact rookie. He made South Beach fun again. It was, the Miami Heat had a reputation over the years. They were a tough, grind out team. Hard nosed. They went through the years of Alonzo Mourning, and it was the very beginning of the first few years of Glenn Rice and those guys, the very first Miami Heat roster and those players in that roster. Then it evolved after the Glenn Rice trade for Alonzo Mourning for much more of a tough, gritty nosed team. Alonzo Mourning, Tim Hardaway, PJ Brown under that Pat Riley umbrella. And when those guys transitioned out, or as they gotten older, it became Dwyane Wade's team. Then after Wade got there, 2 years later, they acquired Shaquille O'Neal, and that 2005-2006 season, they were a team in that finals that, they were playing good basketball, but when they got to the finals and you looked at them and they finally got over the hump and they were getting into the NBA finals, they took on the Dallas Mavericks and they were down. They're down 2-0, and in a 4-game period, Dwyane Wade created an imminent flash. we had seen it, but on a whole-fledged national scale, when everything was on the line, Dwyane Wade did everything he could to get to that finals. Yeah, you had Shaquille O'Neal as a Hall of Famer, but if you go back and watch Wade's Game 3, it was 42 points and 13 rebounds in Game 3. And then you had the 36 and 6 in Game 4. They went back in the crucial Game 5, 43 points in Game 4. And then the closeout game, 36, 10, 5, 4 steals, 3 blocks. Wade was given the dang flash. We saw it. If you go back to game 5 of that series, it was he just got to the free throw line. Dwyane just did so many different things. He terrorized you on both ends of the court. And there was a couple year stretch where Dwyane, and the Heat didn't do much, in the playoffs. They were eliminated, year after year, and they were early exits. I mean, it went 3 straight years of being eliminated in the first round. They never made it out of the first round. And 2010, 2011, they went and got LeBron James. They got Chris Bosh. And that time in South Beach will always be known for those guys being great. In the beginning, they prophesized they were going to win 7 championships. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7. But they were saying we're going to win 7 championships. They got to the finals 4 times. That group of 4, those group of 3 got to the finals 4 times, and they went 2-2 in the finals. They lost to the Spurs and they lost to Dallas. That's the Dallas series they should have won, but we look over years. That was the Dirk Nowitzki sign of greatness, and we'll talk about on the other podcast coming up. But Dwyane learned how to give up and sacrifice because they knew the greater good of the team was letting LeBron James be the leader, and he knew that. The first year he couldn't. First year he didn't do it because LeBron wasn't ready and Dwyane wasn't ready. Years 2, 3, they got it together and they got to the point of being in the finals. And last year, they were just beaten by a better Spurs team the following year. That year, of their union as the big, as the next big set of great guys in the NBA as one unit. And as we look at Dwyane's career, and it's gonna wind down on Wednesday night in Brooklyn. My memories of Dwyane Wade, besides basketball, is a little bit off the court. So, being around the media game for Dwyane, being around the media game like I've been around for the last few years, I've had the pleasure of running into Dwyane Wade on many occasions, and I can say this, Dwyane's one of the greatest players in the history of basketball. I mean, I'm not saying he's top 10 all time, but when he takes off those shoes tonight, I would have Wade in my top 20 probably of all time. And that's in the history of basketball because Dwyane did things in the court that, he was the best shot blocking guard. Michael was one thing, but Dwyane was different. Dwyane blocked shots at a rate that was just incredible. And besides the block shots ability, just like I said, he was a great player. He solidified what Miami was all about, Dan Marino, and he turned it into Wade County. I mean, Miami's county is Dade. Just changed the D to W and it's Wade County. And even though he left for a couple of years, he left to Chicago, left to Cleveland, that will always be Wade County down in South Florida. But back to what I was saying about, the years with Dwyane personally, I've had the privilege of covering Dwyane throughout his career, especially the last few years, with the Heatles, with LeBron and those guys going into the transition afterwards, even in Chicago, in Cleveland, and being there this year for Dwyane, the last year of his career. And I can say this, and I've been around so many guys in this league and so many, different personalities, but Dwyane, in all the time I have been around him, has quite possibly been the best person I've ever dealt with when it comes to interviews, coming to asking questions, when it comes to responding. And there's a lot of things I've even respected when it comes to Dwyane Wade over the years. And he never ever not answered a question for me. He never ever not gave me something good to write about. And he never ever ducked a question or avoided anything I've ever asked him over the years. I can't speak for other journalists. I can only speak for myself. And I've at least covered at least 10 or 11, 12, maybe 12 games of Dwyane over his career. And I've never had one problem with Dwyane, and he's always been super, super good to the media, whether they win or they lose, especially to me. He's never been, and there have been a couple of times, where one of my favorite things to do is talking to players off the record or off the, without a camera in their face or something being recorded. Because what I've learned over the years is that guys are much more honest about certain things. And if it's not quotable, in some cases, it's just not, and I can say this about Dwyane when I've not had a camera in his face or not had a tape recorder, directly in front of him. And I've had, those 30, 60, maybe 90-second conversations about other things, and the candidness of what he says is something that you don't get with a lot of players. And when I say the candidness, so I say that I can remember a story. I had just became a father. I had been raising, I've been raising my ex-wife's child and her son. And, and at that point, when you're raising a stepchild, he becomes your own, but it's different, because it's different raising somebody's child compared to your own. And I just became a new father not long ago. I had my daughter and I had just started covering games in 2014. So one of my very first chances with Dwyane was right after my daughter was born. So I think maybe Apple was about maybe 18, maybe 19 months. It was maybe close to being 2. And it was my first time talking to Dwyane. And at that point, he was getting things together with his boys, the transition for that. And I asked Dwyane, because like I said, my stepson was, he was, let's see, this is 14. So he was right around, he might have been like maybe 8 or 9, 7 or 8, maybe 9. Okay. And his sister, they're 13. Let me make sure I got my ages right, because he'll be 13 this year. He's 5. So probably around maybe 10. I'll think maybe I think maybe 10. And Dwyane we had spoke off the record. So, we had just finished up, and I took the camera off and I asked Dwyane about fatherhood. And he's like, the question I asked him was about how hard is it to raise a young man? And I say, the reason why I asked that question is because I always ask questions of guys who are fathers the same way I ask people who are married, what's their secret? And Dwyane's like, when it comes to raising a man, it's a little bit different because there's so many responsibilities that we have, especially being African American. We have so many responsibilities we have to teach our children. And we had a candid discussion about this. And he's like, there are moments where you're going to feel like you're not doing your job right. There's moments where you can't be their best friend. There's moments where you can't be everything. But the thing is, you have to be present. And the same way I am on the court when it comes to being passionate, I'm just as passionate as my own kids. And he said, it's something you'll learn over time, especially when you become a father. He said, and especially when you have your own child. I said, because, he's like, being a dad is the greatest feeling in the world. And so when I had at the end of the conversation, I was like, okay. And I looked at my stepson and I looked at what he was saying is like, you have to give it your best every day. And I'm still learning. I was still learning how to be a father. Like I said, at that point, Genevieve was just born. And so he always said the one thing he would love to have is, a little girl. And, because it's a difference between balancing a boy and balancing a girl. And I had told him I had a baby girl and, she was, she's growing up so fast. And he said, this is your first one. I was like, yeah, this is my first. I said, my stepson's one thing. This is my first. He said, one of the things that I would tell you, because I asked him, so which, as a new dad, You know, I said, I've been a father for a while, but as a new dad, what's the one thing I expect and what I should expect to? And Dwyane said, just cherish every moment and every moment in time. And I think back on this now as I'm recording this on Wednesday morning. And he was right. You know, I've heard a lot of different advice, but he just said, cherish every moment. And when he got out of his locker, he looked at me and said, you got this. He said, just take every day. And that typical Dwyane Wade smile, he just take every day and just have fun with it. And every time after that, every time I've gone forward, every time I ran into Dwyane, I would finish what I had to get for whatever article I was writing or whatever story I was doing. And I would cut the camera off and ask him how fatherhood was treating me. And after a while, we kind of, I'm not saying we had a bond because it's not that, but we always would have these conversations about fatherhood. And it wouldn't be long because, like I said, you know, he has so many media requests. He has so many things he has to do before games. But he always would talk about being a father and how much being a father meant to him and how great that feeling was, especially when he got all the custody of his boys and how much that meant to him. And in the last little sit down we had, was the beginning of the season because I missed the December game. They were here in Orlando, but he was here for the opener. And I saw the laser focus that night. So I knew that, you know, it'd be a different Dwyane Wade. But in the last last sit down I had with Dwyane, or the last off the moment conversation I had with Dwyane, you know, we were still talking fatherhood. We always talk about it. And I was asking how the boys are transitioning to AAU and how's that taking a toll on him. And he said, you know, it's different, you know, different not being away, and it's different being away so much. And he just could not wait until he was able to spend more time with his kids and, you know, be there for them as they get to those transitional years. And he wants, of course, spending time, you know, more time with his wife, but really, you know, he loves Gabrielle. And I know that because like I said, when you mention Gabrielle, he lights up. But like I said, being a father is just a different story. And it's one of the few things, you know, I can say candidly about Dwyane that makes him even more of a greater person than he is an athlete. And to me, like I said, Dwyane's talked to me so many times, and whether it be after victories, after losses, and he's always been the kindest. And like, I'm not going to get emotional in this podcast, but like watching him walk on that floor for one last time tonight in Brooklyn is going to mean something to me. And I wish I could have been there or Miami to watch any of the final few games of Dwyane, and just the genuine love this man gets from everywhere across the league is so well deserved. So, as I close this version of the podcast, it is one last dance for Dwyane Wade Wednesday night against the Brooklyn Nets in Brooklyn. So if Dwyane scores 60 points or 61 to top Kobe, it wouldn't shock me. But if he scored 2 points, it wouldn't shock me. And I say it wouldn't shock me because no matter what Dwyane has done in his career, it's always been great. So it'd be the greatest 2 points ever, or it'd be the greatest 61 points wherever he falls short, or he falls with tonight. But I am literally watching tonight one of my childhood, you know, one of the things the things I've grown up on in my adult years walk off the floor one last time. And, you know, it's a piece of the basketball, you know, part that made the NBA great in my eyes. Going to walk on the floor one last time and for one last dance tonight. And so, Dwyane, I want to say thank you. You know, who knows who listens to this podcast, but from one journalist who was growing in this game to where I've gotten now, I'm not exactly, you know, where I want to be, but of course I still have a long way to go. But like I said, you know, dealing with somebody who is a first ballot Hall of Famer, literally one of the greatest players of all time, and to always speak to a person I don't write for Sports Illustrated. I don't write for, you know, ESPN. I don't write for any major outlets. I'm not a TV personality. But to treat me, you know, with the most respect and always humble and always willing just to sit and have a conversation. I mean, in the conversation, I think one of my favorite ones before I jump on the podcast was one when Dwyane was in Chicago. And me and another writer, I think that was from down in Miami, had just finished maybe a 3-4 minute conversation with Dwyane. And, we got everything we needed. And so the reporter asked Dwyane a question, and that question literally turned into 8 more minutes of us just talking. There was no camera. It was so much off the record stuff. I think it was from the Palm Beach coast at the time, I think it was. And it turned 8 minutes of Dwyane just talking about, I couldn't even tell you, so many different things he brought up in that discussion. And it was amazing. Like, it literally was amazing. And just some of the things he talked about, like I said, it just was so much stuff that was not basketball. And it just showed how much of a well-rounded person he was. So, big shout outs to my man Dwyane Wade, and his retirement tonight and walking away from the game. I kind of wish he was in the playoffs, this weekend to see him play and lay things up. So, follow me on Twitter at Danny _3 Thompson. That's DANY _3 THOMPSON on Twitter. Also around the association Facebook page, which is around the association on Facebook. Check out aroundtheassociation.com. Subscribe to the podcast here on Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker, and every single downloadable thing you possibly can find for any type of media. So, like I said, this is a 2-part one. This is my way of saying thank you to Flash. His one final game and his last dance tonight, on Wednesday night at the Brooklyn Nets. There's one coming with Dirk Nowitzki. It'll be sometime either Wednesday or sometime Thursday. And I have a couple things with Dirk. And so, like I said, just want to tell Dwyane, if he ever listens to this podcast, this is appreciative for me. I told him that when I saw him in October, but I think now that I have a chance to reflect on it, I can really say, I can get a little bit more candid with it. So, let me know what your thoughts on the podcast is. Follow me everywhere. Like I said, we'll catch you guys later. Peace.
Yeah. Full court pressure. CJ. Yeah, what we talking about? 94 feet, crossover bodies dropping J's up. Players this elite, your shots on body blocking halftime. Yeah. We break it down, we gon' call your bluff, it's past time. You recognize, we got the heat down in Florida with the keys. Guess we the best, magic, we flash with them fans, listen, won't see the best. Show rise from the airwaves like all stars in them stairways. Local rockin', we not stopping, got hot topics like every day. Them trays